Hello, YouTube. On October 4, 1957, mankind officially entered the space age when Soviet Sputnik 1 was launched into Earth orbit. But if humans have reached outer space, then surely there are other civilizations in the galaxy. Astronomers of the Seti Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence program have been searching for an answer to this question for decades by listening to the sky using radio antennas. About what exactly they hope to hear and why this search has been fruitless all these years, in an interview with the Russian publication Gazeta.ru, was told by astrophysicist and SETI participant Alexander Panov. Question: tell us, how did the idea of searching for extraterrestrial civilizations come about as part of the SETI program? Was this due to the spread of radio and television among humans, from which the astronomers concluded that similar signals could be overheard from neighbors in the galaxy? Reply: it was obviously impossible to eavesdrop on the signal of the Ostankino TV tower from other stars. The idea was completely different. In the middle of the 20th century, radio telescopes became widespread. Huge antennas that observe astronomical objects in the radio range. Very quickly, people realized that with a small modification, these antennas could be turned into planetary radars, sending powerful focused radio pulses into space and detecting their reflection from objects in the solar system. For example, the famous Arecibo Observatory, Puerto Rico, thus made a great contribution to the study of Mercury, which for a long time could not be reached by spacecraft. Question: what is SETI? Reply: but very quickly scientists realized that such radars send such powerful and such narrowly focused pulses that they can be used to transmit interstellar signals and receive them with their own help. We can say that the beginning of SETI was laid in 1959 when astronomers Philip Morrison and Giuseppe Cocconi published an article with a list of frequencies and targets for research. In those years, it was believed that we were talking about communication at a distance of several dozens of light years. With the help of modern technology, the signal can be transmitted to many thousands. Question: you say to send signals, but surely in order for us to hear someone's signals on Earth, it is required that someone else consciously send it. Response: that's right. At first, astronomers were inspired by their idea. They believed that interstellar communication was very easy to arrange. After all, it seemed then that since the laws of the universe were the same for everyone and mankind appeared on Earth, then life should also originate in other star systems and then acquire intelligence. Eventually, the mind should open up radio communication, become interested in astronomy, and realize that there may be other life in the galaxy. Therefore, they reasoned back then, if there are other advanced civilizations near the Earth, they are almost certainly trying to get in touch with us. Only later, when the telescopes listened to the star one by one, the enthusiasm waned. No signals could be detected, despite decades of searching. Moreover, experiments have shown that from a technical point of view, it is not easy to arrange a communication system that scientists hope to discover. Question: the hypothesis that an unknown civilization should seek communication with us is very bold. Why not eavesdrop then instead? That is, look for traces of their conversations on their planet or radar pulses Reply. Of course, that would be great. The problem is that with current reception facilities, we could detect such signals from a distance of only 2 to 3 light years, a maximum of a dozen. There are few stars in this radius, and probabilistic estimates show that the nearest civilization should be about 1,000 light years away. TV towers are hardly a problem at all, but there are emitters on Earth that are convenient for observation. These are anti-missile and air defense radars, which are constantly turned on, have a lot of power, and collectively emit in almost all directions simultaneously. But in order to capture their signals from a reasonable distance, like 1,000 light years, modern astronomical dishes are not enough. We need a space-based antenna with a diameter of about 50 kilometers, the construction of which is possible, but certainly not in the coming years. Another thing is the planetary radars, which we discussed above. Their pulses flash through the entire galaxy, but they are used extremely rarely and are directed to points of interest in the solar system. The probability of hitting any civilization in this way is extremely low. Question: what is the current sky coverage for Seti instruments? Reply: 0. At the moment, Seti searches are conducted in the mode of episodic listening to individual stars. Over the years, we have managed to listen to about 4 to 5,000, while according to our calculations, 1 million had to be scanned to be successful. More precisely, not for success, but for a non-zero chance of success. So to be honest, we haven't even started a search program for extraterrestrial civilizations. Moreover, the task of scanning 1 million stars comes from a very optimistic premise. To receive a signal, it is necessary that at the moment when the antenna is pointed at the star, someone shines from there in our direction. To shine in all directions at once and constantly, an alien civilization will need tremendous energy. In fact, they must have energy on the order of the power of their star. That is, it needs to be a type 2 civilization, according to the classification of astrophysicist Nikolai Kardashev. Question: what is the scale? Reply: the Kardashev scale defines 3 categories of hypothetical civilizations, called type 1, 2, and 3 respectively. A type 1 civilization uses all available energy resources available on its home planet. A type 2 civilization uses all the energy of its star, and a type 3 civilization uses all the energy of its galaxy. But if we're talking about our type 1 civilization, then we should not expect a continuous signal from it. They will have to move a narrow beam from star to star. Question: but what if this civilization discovered radio not 100 but 1,000 years ago, or 10,000s, sending signals to the sky for 1,000 years, burning electricity in the hope that aliens will appear in the star system who will hear it, can get boring, and even more so, to use a whole star to power this transmitter? Reply: these considerations, futurological scenarios, are also being discussed in the Seti community. What will civilization be like after passing through the era of technological explosion that we're experiencing now? There is no definite answer here, and there are different scenarios in the forecasts. There are scenarios when a civilization is not interested in contacting anyone. There are those in which, on the contrary, it is very profitable for it. My personal involvement in Seti began with a description of one of these positive scenarios. I proposed the concept of the galactic cultural field, as Kardashev dubbed it, and that's what it is. According to statistical estimates, the nearest civilizations to us are far away, hundreds and thousands of light years away. Therefore, it is impossible to maintain a dialogue with a separate civilization, but something else is possible. If civilization A is already listening to the sky and wants to share information about itself, then we can assume that after receiving a signal from another civilization B, it will relate to others. Civilization C, having received signals from A and B, will add its own to them and pass on to others, D, E, and so forth. As a result, a co-cultural field can form in the galaxy, which will accumulate information for millions of years. Civilization may already perish, and its trace, a fragment of the cultural field, will circulate between the stars. Question. Historians could object at this point. They remember that all previous attempts to predict the future of mankind ended in failure. There's even a logical proof by Karl Popper about the impossibility of predicting the future. After all, at every moment of time, people act based on current knowledge, and no one by definition knows what we will learn in 10, 50, 100 or more years. What can we say about other civilizations with alien physiology and psychology? Reply. Of course, when discussing this topic, we have to make assumptions. But these assumptions are explicitly stated in the theory outline, and there are fewer of them than you might think. It is impossible to present all the details and evidence in an interview, but for anyone who is interested, I suggest reading my book, Universal Evolution and the Problem of Seti. To put it very roughly and briefly, we're talking about a theory of natural selection in relation to civilizations. By the way, according to this theory, humanity is going through one of the toughest filters of this selection right now. During the past epochs, the intervals between fundamental changes in the development of the biosphere have been constantly decreasing. We are approaching an evolutionary singularity, a period when the pace of development of life, represented by humanity, will be so high that will be beyond our current understanding. But in order to move along this path, humanity, like any other civilization, will have to fully compensate for internal and external aggression, which will give a completely different motivation for research and development. Question. Is it possible to state at the moment that the search for extraterrestrial civilizations by mankind has reached a dead end? Reply. In my opinion, this is partly true. In fact, there's now an endless repetition of searches using the old methodology, single listening of stars, one after another, with radio telescopes. This technique is designed only to search for type 2 civilizations, but who said they even exist? However, from my point of view, an important breakthrough occurred not so long ago in Russia. Our country has really become a leader in a new important area of the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. To search for the type 1 civilizations that we know for sure exist, ourselves, for example, we need to search for a very rare signal from an unknown direction that will arrive at an unknown time. This requires a continuous view of the entire sky or large parts of it. It turned out that this task is much easier to solve for optical rather than radio signal search. Nothing supernatural is required to transmit such optical signals. Lasers of the required class already exist on Earth. This is, for example, an installation in the American National Ignition Facility complex. It conducts research on thermonuclear fusion, and a laser is used to ignite nuclear fuel. With a similar laser, if directed into the sky, it will be possible to transmit interstellar signals throughout the galaxy. This is what concerns the transmitter. In Russia, a receiver for optical signals was built not so long ago, located in the Tunka Valley near Lake Baikal. The Taiga Cosmic Ray Research Facility is located there, but specifically for Seti, the Taiga High Score instrument is interesting. It is an array with an area of about 1 square kilometer, filled with optical receiving stations with photomultipliers. It was also originally designed to detect cosmic rays, but it turned out to be ideal for searching for laser-generated flashes from other stars. Question: how is it better than radio telescopes? Reply: a huge field of view. Its coverage area is a cone with a solution of about 60 degrees, and despite this, it allows you to calculate the direction of the source. Light propagating in space can be represented as an inflating sphere, and if this sphere has a diameter of many light years, small areas of its surface become indistinguishable from the plane. And when the flat light front passes through a set of detectors, it causes them to fire in its path in a certain order. By the order of operation, you can calculate where the front came from. Such devices are not very expensive, and they can be built all over the Earth to continuously scan the entire sky. If this can be done, it will be the first serious step of the Seti program, which will give non-zero chances of detecting an alien civilization. This is what I wanted to let you know, and I will bring you more interesting developments in the Russian science, in Russian ufology, and generally in Russian paranormal phenomena. I just want to add about this cultural field that the Russian scientist was speaking about. You should see my video about Ivan Yefremov, the great Soviet scientist, writer, explorer, and thinker, who was suspected by the KGB to an alien. It's a very dramatic story. Well, in his books, tremendous books, and I recommend that you read them because there are many of them in languages other than Russia, in English. For example, there are in Chinese and French and Spanish and so forth. In Hebrew, I know, I am not sure, but maybe in Arabic too, Portuguese. You will learn a lot from his books, and you will find out about the great circle in the universe where one civilization, one sentient civilization sends signal to others, and it's like a great circle of the civilizations. He knew about it, he predicted, he described not only ideas that came up later, but ideas we maybe did not understand back in the 1950s when he published his book about outer space and civilizations out there. This is very interesting about SETI, and like I said, I'll bring you more interesting developments. If you like my research, please support through the links you find in the description to this video. Please like my videos, of course. Subscribe to my channel. Thank you.